Loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go.
The art of intimacy. Years ago in North Carolina, I discovered a magical place called Timberlake Earth Sanctuary, an eco-spirituality center owned by a dear woman who would soon become my friend. One day, as the two of us were walking along the grounds, we were taking a stroll, I kept asking her questions. What is the name of that tree? What is this flower called? And what is the name of that bird over there? And at some point, smiling gently at me, she said, it's called intimacy. What you are doing right now, intimacy. You want to be intimate with the land, but how can you be intimate with something when you don't even know its name? And I loved that concept. Intimacy. I had never heard the word used in such a context, but soon enough, I would find it yet again, this time in a book by the Zen master Dogen, who had been born in Japan almost 800 years before. He gave language to one of the building blocks in my theology. He said, and I quote, "Enlightenment is intimacy with all things. Enlightenment is intimacy with all things." Enlightenment in Buddhism is when someone finds the truth about life and when that truth sets them free. So from this perspective, enlightenment is when we are able to be intimate with all of life. But what is intimacy? Actually, we need to redefine the word. Intimacy is different from company. Many of us know that we can feel quite lonely while being in a relationship. And some of us never feel more alone than when we are in a crowd. So intimacy is not about proximity, right? It's not about being in front of something. It's about connection. It's about knowing it as well, right? And loving it. It's about love. There are various forms of intimacy, but unfortunately, when we think about intimacy, we usually think of sexual intimacy. However, expanding our understanding of the word of this term can bring a tremendous sense of well-being, a feeling of deeper connection to the web of existence, and a greater satisfaction in life. So let's take a look at these different forms of intimacy. First, we have experiential intimacy, which happens when, for example, a parent and a child work on a puzzle together. That bonding that happens there is a form of experiential intimacy. And most of us have time now to do that kind of experiential intimacy. But it can also happen when we find ourselves absorbed in the beauty of a flower. As the writer Diane Ackerman puts it, noticing the furry yellow comb inside the throat of an iris. That is experiential intimacy. Now, emotional intimacy, we are more familiar with. It happens when two people share their feelings, even the hard feelings, their hard emotions, like admitting how scared we are. That vulnerability leads to emotional intimacy. And our love for life, our love for the sacred, whatever we call the sacred, that is another form of emotional intimacy, which is why our spiritual practices connecting to that is so important. Intellectual intimacy is also a thing. It happens when two people trust one another enough to get deep and vulnerable together, to share things such as the meaning of life. And what a great time it is now, by the way, to connect with friends via Facebook, FaceTime, or phone and practice this form of intimacy. Intellectual intimacy can also happen with life itself, when we learn something amazing about life that make us go like, wow, wow. For instance, scientists just discovered recently a fungi that eats radiation in Chernobyl. That is just amazing. And its name, by the way, to be intimate now with this fungi, its name is Cryptococcus neoformans. Intimacy, the way I see it in general, is about not only our deep love for life, but it's also about the quality of our engagement with it. Intimacy really is about mindfulness. And for decades now, clinical science has proven that mindfulness reduces stress and anxiety, and it heals some of our mental and even physical health issues. Intimacy and mindfulness activate our innate connection with the world around us and the world within us. It allows us to become more compassionate, to wake up to the fullness of our lives. And from that place of healing and wholeness, we can better serve our community and the world during these challenging times. Our longing for connection can be satisfied by being intimate with all things, including perhaps the virus itself that is threatening us now. One of my favorite teachers, Mark Nepo, says that life presents itself as is. Just like water is H2O. I can say, I would like just the hydrogen, please. It stops being water. Today, when we are celebrating Women's Month, and when we are exploring the theme of the divine feminine, which is yielding like water, may we remember that life comes as it is, like water. At this time, we are being invited to a new rhythm of life, a slower pace. And what a perfect time for this spiritual practice of intimacy with all things. Intimacy with our feelings, with the earth, with one another, with the language of our bodies, with our breath, with our heartbeat. Intimacy with the light in the eyes of the beloved. Because we already have this impulse to connect, intimacy allows us to move from separation to wholeness. We are invited to get closer and closer and closer until we realize that we are, in fact, not separate, but a part of everything.
This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of voices too. The sound of music singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices three, singing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of all of us, singing with love and the will to trust. Leave the rest behind, it'll turn to dust. This is the sound of all of us. This is the sound of all of us. Ooh.
Hi, my name is Kelli McLoud-Schingen, and I want to talk to you today about stories. I don't know if you're like me, but when I was a little girl, any time that my grandfather would say, all right, everybody, sit down, we're going to tell you a story, we would just drop right where we were, sit crisscross applesauce, and be totally engaged and listening to every word that he would say with just bated breath. There was nothing more fun than to listen to that story. It took us to a completely different place. We learned about other people, how people did things differently. We learned about danger. We learned how people overcame the danger. There was nothing more exciting to me than listening to a story. I think that we have forgotten how much the power of story can still engage us with one another. Patty Dye, intercultural storyteller, she says that the shortest distance between two strangers is a story. I don't believe that there's anything that's more true. But George Simmel, a German sociologist, says that a stranger is viewed with suspicion because of the unpredictability of their behavior. I think that we're living in unpredictable times right now. And I would really like for us to get back to recognizing how simple the process of telling and listening to stories can connect us. Mother Teresa said that if there is no peace, it's because we've forgotten that we belong to one another. And I think that we just need to remember that stories can help fix our collective memory. So what are the benefits of storytelling, right? I mean, they're simple. I think that the benefits of story to the teller is that it is about healing and their connection with the listener and the ability to create community with not just their own story, but to bring others into the process of their experience. And it's about courage. It's courageous to be able to tell your personal story. The benefit to the listener is really about the new knowledge that they gain from listening to somebody else's story, the healing to them, right? Because if they're listening to somebody else's story, sometimes when this person is talking about their pain and how they lived through that experience and how they began to heal, that also impacts the listener, and they too begin to heal as well. It's about community between the listener and the teller. And ultimately, it's about trust. The teller trusted me enough with their story in order for me to hold it. And at the end of the day, my being able to tell a story and to share that story with you is about me being able to provide you with a gift. I'm giving you a gift for telling my story. And if you hold it, then it becomes, I trust you to hold it. So it is a vulnerable thing in order for me to share my story as well. I think that it's also something that is about learning what the benefits are of story listening. It's about your ability to hear concealed stories. It's about listening to feel me, not just hear me. Because storytelling is really about developing compassion and empathy. Yeah, it provides us with that opportunity because it's something that we do naturally. Our brains are hardwired for story. We want to hear people's stories and we want to be connected. Story listening is about cultural humility. Your story is not the story. And story listening is then finally about your ability to transform through my story. So how will you be different because of what you hear me share about my own experience? I don't know if you guys watched the Game of Thrones like I did, but Tyrion Lannister said, what unites people is armies, gold, flags. It's stories. There's nothing more powerful in the world than a good story. Nothing can stop it, and no enemy can defeat it. I think that's right. I want to challenge you to tell and listen. I believe strongly that if we take the time to listen to one another's stories and one another's experiences, we will remember that we belong to each other. I'd like to leave you with an Indian proverb that states, if you tell me a fact, I'll learn. If you tell me the truth, I'll believe. But if you tell me a story, it will live in my heart forever.
What happens when a woman takes power? What happens when she wears the crown? Whoa, we rise above. Whoa, we lead with love. Whoa, we have won. We are one. We've just begun. Whoa, we rise above. Whoa, we lead with love. Whoa, we have won. We are one. We've just begun. What happens when a woman takes power? What happens when a woman what happens when she won't back? What happens when a woman takes power? What happens? What happens? What happens when a woman takes power?
What does happen when a woman takes power? When amazing Caitlin, who you just heard singing, suggested this song for March to lift up women activists and celebrate Women's History Month, to recognize and honor that it's been 100 years since women won the right to vote, I said, yes, yes. This morning, the song sounds a little bit different, even as I still hear a solid yes rising up from within me. I feel a yes rising up to Senator Amy Klobuchar, who with Ron Wyden is introducing legislation to make mail-in ballots available to every voter in America. Voting is more important than ever now, but that's a topic for another Sunday. This morning, let's listen again to the lyrics. And instead of imagining an individual woman when you hear the pronoun she, I invite you to imagine our earth. What happens when she takes power? What happens when she won't back down? What happens when she rules her own body? What happens when she sets the beat? What happens when she bows to nobody? What happens when she stands on her own 2 feet? Like you, I imagine I have many mental images of both the earth and of individual women claiming their own power. Here in Oklahoma, we know intimately what it feels like when a storm is blowing or a tornado is brewing. Personally, I immersed myself in the power of women, in their physical strength, and in their courage when I was 22 years old. In one fateful week in 1985 in El Paso, Texas, I attended 6 births. Witnessing the power of the life force itself brought me to my knees and called me closer. Here was the greatest mystery of all, the mystery of life and death, for the two are always present at every birth. The greatest mystery of all made manifest in the flesh, this time in the body of a woman. I spent the next decade of my life learning and practicing the science and art of midwifery, devoted to the divine feminine, which led me to the study of spirituality and theology. In my experiences with women giving birth and in my seminary studies, I uncovered or rediscovered, really, a distinct spiritual journey that feels especially significant today. Instead of the classic hero's journey, where the hero leaves home, faces a challenge, and then returns home, a journey in 3 phases: the first, departure; the second, initiation; and the third, return. Here was a classic heroine's journey, also in 3 phases. A journey that starts with enclosure, leads to metamorphosis, and ends with emergence. This heroine's journey, much like the hero's journey, requires courage in both small and big ways. It demands surrender, doing the right thing, choosing love over fear, and becoming the person we are meant to be. And I thank member Jan Pepler for this description of the demands of a hero's journey. You may want to go back and listen to her talk at the Point from a few weeks ago. The difference between the 2 journeys are large and small. In the heroine's journey, we have to stay home or create home. We have to create shelter. The challenges and changes happening are often, if not always, not visible. And the journey ends with expansion, an exit, some kind of separation, instead of a return. It feels like the right time to remember this archetypal heroine's journey. I'm thankful to Carolee Flinders and her book, At the Root of This Longing, which is where I found this path described or proscribed. Whether it is a prescription for or a description of our lives today, here we are. Here you are. You have been invited on a journey into the unknown. This ask to enclose ourselves, to allow time and space for transformation, to wait, to emerge, challenges my instincts and impulses, and maybe yours as well. I imagine you're feeling some tension, as I am, between my instinct for self-preservation and my impulse to care for others. It may feel like every day you need to reprioritize your life, considering again and again what matters most today. Some of us are feeling tired, wondering how we'll make it through all this. Some of us are eager to emerge, ready to be already on the other side. But if something new is trying to be born in these times, and I believe it is, our challenge is to find wise ways to wait, to allow, to listen, to get intimate with what is happening. Ask any pregnant woman or mother just how patient she had to be. And then ask her to remind you how she got through it. The answer will always be one contraction at a time. I'm so grateful to Shannon, who is walking with our families through this time. I'm so grateful to Mariela, who is reminding us how helpful and healing it is to practice mindfulness in times of stress. I'm grateful to Kelli, who is encouraging us to listen for stories wanting to be told and then to tell them and listen to them. I'm grateful to the lineage of midwives who taught me and who know that every body no matter what their gender, can learn to breathe through or pray their way through moments of fear, frustration, anxiety, anger, helplessness, hopelessness, transition, and transformation. In those years when I was practicing as a midwife, I knew exactly what I wanted for every woman. I wanted her to feel her full power. I wanted her to know how hard she could push and when to hold back. I wanted her to know how to stand on her own 2 feet and to know when to rest. I wanted her to feel free, to feel as forcefully as she wanted to, and to let go and open when it was time. I wanted her to balance her own needs with the needs of new life. This is what I want for each one of you, too. To feel your own power and to connect with your own sources of wisdom. To know when to push and when to hold back. To stand on your own 2 feet and to know when to listen. To be forceful and open. To be resilient and rest. To balance your own needs with the needs of others around you. To do your very best and then let go. We are on a heroine's journey together now. All of us, all around the world. A journey beginning with enclosure, moving through transformation and ending with emergence. This can't be rushed. We will get through it, one contraction at a time. We rise above. We lead with love. We have one. We are one. We've only just begun.
With love, oh, we are one, we have one, we've just begun.
Hey, we're so happy you're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed.
And be a blessing.